Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news and events taking place on the African scene. And we will start off with our major top stories and reports. African Union Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Bankole Adoye, lauded the painstaking efforts exerted by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi for development and reconstruction during the post-conflict stage in the African continent. More details in this report.
African Union Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Adoye, lauded the painstaking efforts exerted by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi for development and reconstruction during the post-conflict stage in Africa. He made the remarks in statements on Wednesday during his participation in the second workshop of the African Union on reviewing the AU policy of reconstruction and development in the post-conflict stage, which Egypt is hosting. He highlighted President Sisi's pioneering role in the file of reconstruction and development in the post-conflict stage. He considered Egypt's hosting of the workshop as an important progress, as the workshop represents a chance for mobilizing experts and decisions makers in Egypt in order to promote more effective partnerships to stand on new threats in the post-conflict stage. The EU Commission is committed to working with partners to promote peace-building capabilities. As for the situation in Sudan, Adoye said he is looking forward to proceeding with working with the Egyptian leadership and the parties concerned to restore peace and stability in the region for reconstruction and development. He said a roadmap was endorsed during a meeting to settle the conflict in Sudan, which focused on launching a coordination mechanism among the parties concerned in order to reach a peaceful and unconditional ceasefire in order to ensure the continuation of humanitarian assistance. He added that Sudan has to get engaged in a political transformation process.
And under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, a workshop was organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in cooperation with the Cairo International Center for Conflict Resolution, Peace Building and Peacekeeping, along with the African Union Development Agency. The three-day workshop reviewed the African Union's post-conflict reconstruction and development policy. More details in this report.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in cooperation with the Cairo International Center for Conflict Resolution, Peacekeeping and Peace Building, the African Union Commission and the African Development Agency, organized a workshop to review the relevant policy of the African Union in the field of post-conflict reconstruction and development. The workshop was attended by the Commissioner of Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the African Union, the Executive Director of the African Development Agency, a number of senior international officials and representatives of international institutions and accredited embassies in Cairo. During the opening of the workshop, Ashraf Suwailam, Assistant Foreign Minister for African Organizations, stressed the certainty of African relations in Egypt's foreign policy and Egypt's interest in achieving sustainable peace throughout the continent in light of the independence between the challenges of peace, development, and humanitarian needs in a number of African countries. This is what Egypt will be pushing in the context of the leadership of peace building, reconstruction and development file, as well as its current chairmanship of the steering committee of the African Development Agency, and reflects the confidence of African countries in Egyptian capabilities in those areas. He also stressed the importance of the role that the African Union Center for Reconstruction and Development, hosted by Egypt, will play in the development and implementation of projects to build and sustain peace and in coordinating regional and international efforts in this regard. He noted the workshop is part of the preparatory process of the fourth edition of the Aswan Forum for Sustainable Peace and Development and reviewed the national capacity building efforts of the Cairo Center for African Excellence at the continental level in line with the vision of Egyptian foreign policy to support brotherly African countries.
Welcome back, and now let's check out this report on the current conflict taking place in Sudan and the immediate humanitarian consequences in Sudan. Let's have a closer look.
Discussing the current crisis in Sudan, President Fattah el-Sisi addressed the African Peace and Security Council via video conference. In his speech, the head of state lauded the continuous partnership among the African sides, international partners and relief institutions to work together towards a stable and safe Sudan. President Sisi said that Egyptian vision regarding the current Sudanese crisis, including reaching a comprehensive sustainable ceasefire to preserve the national Sudanese state institutions, to help the Sudanese people achieve consensus without foreign intervention, and to deal with the humanitarian repercussions of the crisis, which extended beyond the Sudanese borders. President Sisi stressed that Egypt's efforts were integrated with all the regional partners, including the AU and the Arab League.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and we're delighted to be joined over the phone by Ambassador Souad Chalabi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Ambassador.
Good afternoon.
Well, Ambassador Souad, under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, a workshop was organized to review the African Union's post-conflict reconstruction and development policy. How do you view the significance of this workshop?
This workshop is giving the center a big boost because of the presidential support of President Sisi, because this center has been hosted by Egypt in Cairo. And it has been since maybe 2010, we have been trying to attract all the possible donors in order to be able to function this center. It is a complementary center to Triple CPA, which is hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Egypt. And this center is mainly for reconstruction, conflict resolution, and sustainable peace and security in conflict-driven areas. So it's very important to hold this workshop in order to give an impetus and to strengthen the role of this center, especially at the time when Sudan is facing a crisis and it needs management of the conflict in Sudan and reconstruction after stability.
Right. Well, the goals of this workshop are consistent with the Egyptian vision for the importance of pushing forward peace building and reconstruction efforts. How do you see this kind of consistency between the two visions?
Of course, Egypt is helping the African Union in the peace and security architecture because there is the Peace and Security Council, which is part of the peace and security architecture in African Union, and Egypt has played a very big role in this regard. The conflicts that happen in Africa are multiple, and they are always very difficult to manage. That is why the role of Egypt is very important in supporting peace and security, and in supporting, in pushing for stability in regions like, for instance, Mali and Senegal and Mauritania. All these places in all these countries in North Africa, West Africa that needs the support of Egypt, and that is coinciding with our political support to the Peace and Security Council in the African Union. So this center represents the vision of Egypt towards peace and stability.
Yes.
Conflict prevention.
Right. Egypt assumed the chairmanship of the African Union for 1 year. How do you view the role of Egypt in the African Union during this 1 year and after, since then?
Egypt has been always a catalyst for peace, in mediation, and in pushing for the rehabilitation and demobilizing of refugees. So this post-conflict center is doing exactly the same role that Egypt has been doing when it's the president of the African Union. It's a specialized technical agency to implement and to monitor, evaluate conflicts in Africa. And Egypt's role was to mediate and to reach stability and security after conflicts, like, for instance, in Rwanda, what happened there, and Egypt's support for conflict stability and for peace and security in the area. So Egypt's role also to mobilize resources in order to help these countries, in order to send them humanitarian aid and to help with excess number of refugees and immigrants. So the impact of conflict is very difficult, and Egypt's role is to help in supporting in the crisis management and in the operationalization of the center, because it is linked with Triple CPA, which is Egypt's main center for conflict management and conflict resolution.
Right. Ambassador Chalabi, what do you think are the major challenges facing the African continent with regards to stability, political stability, peace, and also sustainable development in the continent?
Well, the main challenges are, of course, the elections. The elections usually have problems after, and also the fight of the borders and the main trafficking of illegal trafficking of arms and ammunition, and of course, like Sudan, we see the crisis in Sudan is a good example to how conflict starts, because there are two factions who want to reach the authority and who want to lead the country, and there is always two agendas, and the fight, the innocent people and the population, the normal population is suffering a lot from these conflicts. So, the challenges that happen in Africa is usually the fight over authority and the illegal use of power, and of course tyranny, and the illegal use of natural resources.
Yeah.
So all these challenges are being looked upon as the roots of the conflict in Africa.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Ambassador Suaid Chalabi, former assistant to the Foreign Minister. Many thanks for your insight. And your viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Live TV International.